The truth doesn't tap gently. It crashes in, rips the door from its frame, and hauls every faucet into the open. Welcome back, chosen one. Enough pretending, enough politeness. They didn't merely twist your name. They constructed entire illusions to erase you. They cast you as a villain while siphoning your light to keep their own world from falling apart. But here's what they never anticipated. Truth remembers, and now it's returned, keen as shattered glass, cutting through every disguise they ever hid behind. They aren't haunted by their actions. They are haunted by the fact that their story refuses to stay buried. That sooner or later, like right now, someone begins asking real questions, and their version is already unraveling. Their hands tremble when your name comes up. Their voice falters. Their guilt is visible, and it's not pretty. You weren't simply overlooked. You were deliberately erased because your truth didn't match their narrative. And here's the reality. The universe witnessed everything. They thought they were fighting you, mocking you, laughing at your fall. But all along, they were striking against the universe itself. And the universe never misses. You were never by yourself. You were being shaped in silence, refined, strengthened, transformed into something they could never be prepared for. And now you're not here to defend your name. You're here to lay their lives to rest. So if you're done staying silent, if you're tired of letting cowards tell your story like it was theirs to live, then share this, like it, subscribe. Because every time one of us awakens, it sends a signal to YouTube, to the world, to every chosen one still hidden in silence, that it's time to rise. And when we rise, their world ignites. They should have left you alone, but they didn't. They tried to play God with your identity, rewrite your truth, and now they are suffocating under guilt they pretended wasn't there. Let's be clear, being chosen isn't some gentle fairy tale. It's harsh, it's heavy, it's a battlefield. The universe doesn't choose the weak. It chooses those who can hold fire within and still walk through the coldest betrayal, as if it were nothing more than passing weather. Being chosen means you became a target because you carry what they never could: real power, real truth, real light. And here's the burden of that power. It reveals every false person around you. That's why they turned against you, not because you were wrong, but because your presence exposed that they were. You reflected everything they could never become. And instead of rising with you, they tried to break you. But here's what they failed to understand. The chosen don't shatter, we explode. You are not their victim, you are their consequence. You are the answer to the question they hoped would never be asked. You are the missing page that exposes their entire story as a lie. And now the world is turning to that page. Stand firm. Your silence was never weakness, it was restraint. But now your voice, it's a hammer. It's the reckoning. And they're already fracturing. Because when you speak, the atmosphere shifts. The fake ones grow quiet. The energy changes. They feel it. They know. The universe stands behind its chosen, and they are suffocating in guilt. So if you've ever stayed quiet while they rewrote your story, this is where that silence ends. Drop the number 77 in the comments if you're done letting cowards speak in your place. The harsh truth is out, and they are choking on guilt because your side is finally being heard. And believe this, if you truly are chosen, you won't just want to stay until the end. You'll feel compelled to. This isn't just content, it's your call to step into power. Let's begin. First, they didn't silence you to protect themselves. They muted you to protect their lie. Here's the truth most people avoid. They didn't quiet you because they feared chaos or drama. They did it because your voice was a wrecking force aimed directly at their fragile structured deception. Their story was nothing more than a shaky house of cards, and you were the one piece capable of bringing it all down. They weren't shielding themselves from you. They were guarding the illusion they built. You weren't just inconvenient, you were dangerous. Not to their safety, but to their control. Because your truth didn't just disturb the surface, it fractured the foundation. And once a foundation cracks, everything collapses. So they buried your truth deep, like something never meant to be uncovered. They made your silence appear like shame. They turned your absence into something that looked like guilt. But you weren't quiet because you lacked words. You stayed silent because you understood the weight your voice carried, the kind that could break entire worlds. Meanwhile, they were busy twisting their version of events like manipulators handing out flyers on every corner. They cast themselves as the heroes, positioned themselves as the storytellers, and erased you entirely from a narrative. The cruelest part? People believed it. They accepted the lie because it was easier than facing reality. But illusions don't last forever. Now their fragile structure is shaking, cracks spreading through their polished masks. The guilt consuming them isn't remorse, it's fear. They are not sorry for what they did. They are afraid their lives are slipping away. Guilt shows itself in quiet moments, in uneasy glances, in stories that begin to fall apart the moment your name enters a conversation. And you, the chosen one, who's been questioning, wondering if silence means you're less, if absence means you don't matter, stop. Doubting your light is exactly what your enemies want, because being chosen isn't about an easy path. It's about walking through fire and emerging sharper, stronger, unbreakable. When the universe chooses you, it doesn't hand you directions. It gives you the power to redraw the map itself. You were never alone, and you were never forgotten. While they tried to silence you, the universe was quietly arranging everything behind the curtain. They weren't just toying with you. They were interfering with the very framework that sustains reality itself. And that framework pushes back. The universe is a way of reversing roles, turning the pursued into the pursued, transforming the muted into a voice louder than any deception. Here's a harsh reality for every chosen soul who has ever felt isolated or uncertain. Your light is your weapon. Questioning it only strengthens their illusion that you can be broken. But you can't, because the universe elected you. Not accidentally, but intentionally. And when the universe elects, it moves mountains, shifts oceans, rearranges the stars. So stop minimizing your power. Stop concealing your light because you fear the shadows it creates. Those shadows exist because you shine too intensely. They're afraid. They recognize that you are the fracture in their stronghold, the storm they tried to imprison. Don't let their fear make you doubt yourself. Your silence was not defeat, it was protection. Their guilt isn't a soft whisper, it's a thunderous noise that will never let them find peace. You are the chosen one, the embodiment of the universe's reckoning. No lie, no darkness, no fabricated narrative can extinguish the fire within you. The battle was never truly against you. It was against the universe itself. And the universe always prevails. Second, they didn't label you the villain because it was accurate. They did it because it was convenient. Sometimes truth doesn't wound, it reveals. And when people fear being seen for who they truly are, they would rather destroy someone else's name than confront their own reflection. Let's be direct. They cast you as a villain, not because you were wrong or dangerous, but because it was the simplest way to avoid facing themselves. You were genuine, and nothing unsettles a deceiver more than someone who refuses to pretend. You showed up with truth in your gaze, scars on your body, and a light that didn't wait for approval to shine. For them, that was overwhelming, too raw, too intense, too honest. So what did they do? They didn't just step back, they rewrote the entire narrative. Suddenly, you became the issue. You were too much, too emotional, unable to let things go. They twisted your clarity into instability, your awareness into suspicion, your pain into drama. And the most unsettling part, they did it so subtly, so smoothly, that the world barely noticed. Why? Because lies are easier to accept than complicated truths. Because labeling you as a villain saved them from admitting they were the ones who caused the damage, then acted as if you harmed yourself. But here's something that may sting before it heals. You allowed it. Yes, they used silence as a weapon. Yes, they manipulated perception. But somewhere in the aftermath, you began believing the falsehoods. You started questioning if maybe you really were too much. Maybe you should have stayed silent. Maybe it really was your fault. No, that doubt is how they succeed. That's how cowards endure, by convincing warriors they were never meant for battle. You were never the villain. They simply couldn't handle the light you carried. So instead of rising to meet it, they covered it in darkness and pointed, saying, "Look, that's where the problem is." But here's the deepest truth. They knew exactly what they were doing. Every word, every lie, every half-smile filled with hidden poison. It was intentional. They weren't confused. They weren't innocent. They were deliberate, strategic, with one clear goal: keep attention away from themselves long enough for the world to forget. And the world did forget, because people avoid discomfort. They want simple narratives. It's easier to accept a story where you're the problem than to face the idea that someone they trusted was deceptive. So they held on to the lie, repeated it, spread it, believed it, not because it was real, but because it was easy. But remember this, something they hoped you'd never realize. Chosen ones don't collapse under lies. They rise because of them. Pressure doesn't destroy you, it reveals you. They believe turning you into the villain would erase you. But they overlook one thing. Villains don't disappear, they transform. And in your case, the universe never made you a villain. It made you a mirror. And what they saw in that reflection was everything they couldn't stand about themselves. You were never meant to make people comfortable. You were meant to reveal, to ignite, to confront. Your light didn't just brighten the space. It exposed the dust in their corners, the dirt beneath their smiles, the stains they tried to hide. And you questioned yourself for that. You doubted the fireplace within you. So hear this clearly. Stop apologizing for a power they couldn't control. Stop holding your breath in spaces filled with deception. Stop doubting the voice that strikes like lightning while others speak in fog. You were chosen because you disrupt, because your very presence unsettles deceivers and makes the dishonest uneasy. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to shake foundations. Every time they twisted your truth, it was because they couldn't match your clarity. Every time they called you too much, it was because your spirit refused to shrink. Every time they painted you as a villain, it was because they knew the truth would expose them. Here's what they'll never admit. They're afraid of you. Afraid that one day someone will truly hear your side. Afraid that your story will emerge unfiltered, clearly, fully, and believed. And when that moment arrives, the spotlight they once used against you will turn toward them, and they will struggle under the same heat they directed at you. Let their guilt consume them. Let their narratives fall apart. You were never meant to carry their blame. You were meant to be their reckoning. And if doubt ever returns, if you ever start to believe they were right, remember this. You are not the villain. You are the consequence. The chosen one is not the one who fits into the story. The chosen one is the one who rewrites it. So let them whisper, let them distort, let them run, because soon they won't be able to escape what's coming. You, your truth, and the universe standing beside you. Third, their guilt isn't really about you. It's about being confronted by their own reflection. When deceivers face the mirror, they don't recognize guilt. They notice a fracture in their disguise and fear others might see it too. Let's make this absolutely clear. Their guilt has nothing to do with your suffering. They are not restless at night because they hurt you. They are unraveling because your truth reveals them. It was never about remorse. It was about image. They didn't care that you were wounded, only that your wounds pointed back at them. You might want to believe they feel regret, that somewhere deep inside they are troubled by what they did. But here's the hard truth. They are not disturbed by your pain. They are disturbed by your existence. Still standing, still shining, still capable of tearing down their carefully constructed identity with just a few words. They created a persona, the kind one, the misunderstood one, even the victim. And your presence threatens to dismantle that illusion. That's what they can't tolerate. So no, they won't apologize. They won't confess. They won't even admit what happened, because doing so would force them to truly look at themselves, and what they'd see wouldn't match the image they've been selling. Now they overdo it, don't they? Smiling too broadly, posting vague, I've healed messages, acting overly calm, overly unaffected, like they've mastered inner peace. But guilt has a presence, and it seeps through. Watch how their tone shifts when your name comes up. Notice the tension in their throat, the forced laugh. Pay attention to the side comments, the unnecessary remarks disguised as humor, the way they pretend you don't matter while making sure everyone knows they've moved on. That isn't peace. That's panic hidden behind fake serenity. So stop waiting for their redemption. Stop hoping they'll wake up one day and realize how deeply they hurt you. This isn't the kind of guilt that transforms. It's the kind that hides, that avoids, that builds barriers instead of bridges. They are not struggling because they feel empathy. They are struggling because exposure is getting closer, and they can feel it. That spotlight they once turned on you is shifting back, and the heat is reaching them. Here's the truth. You were never their punishment. Your presence simply reflected who they really were, and that truth was never as pure as they pretended. So no, they won't reach out. Not because they've healed, but because they're afraid. Afraid of losing control of the narrative. Afraid of losing their mask. Afraid of being truly seen. And that fear isn't yours to fix. Let them sit in it. Fourth, they didn't love you. They loved you when you were broken. Some people don't hold on out of love. They hold on because your pain gives them a sense of power. Let's strip away the illusion. They never loved you. They loved the version of you they could control. The damaged, quiet, uncertain version. The one who doubted themselves, who spoke softly instead of boldly. The one who looked up to them as if they were a savior. They fed off that version of you, openly yet unnoticed. They never wanted to see you whole. They wanted to be seen as the one helping you survive. You became their favorite project. Your pain fed their ego. They loved saying, "I've been there for them through everything," wearing it like a badge of honor. Meanwhile, deep down, they hoped you never fully healed, because your healing disrupted their act. They needed to be the hero in your story. They required you to stay wounded so they could appear self-sacrificing. Every tear you shed became their applause. Every breakdown became their story to tell. "You don't understand what I've done for them," they'd say, seeking validation for a role they chose just to feel superior. You were never the main character in their eyes. You were the background, the broken piece that made them appear wise. And when you began to rise, when your voice returned, when your strength came back, when you no longer depended on them, that's when everything changed. Suddenly, they weren't so kind. Suddenly, your strength felt like betrayal. Suddenly, you were labeled ungrateful, distant, different. But you weren't different. You were finally becoming yourself. And the truth is, they never wanted the real you. They wanted the version they could keep beneath them. Let that truth sink in. Because if you've ever wondered why they distanced themselves as you healed, it's because they were never celebrating your growth. They were celebrating their own role. They were addicted to being needed. Your progress took away the control they were never meant to have. So no, they didn't fall out of love. They simply lost their use for you. And here's where you need to hear this clearly. Stop grieving people who only stayed for your pain. Stop seeking closure from those who only appreciated your weakness. Stop asking yourself what you did wrong. You healed. That's what happened. And healing doesn't always bring people closer. It reveals who was never meant to stay. The universe didn't choose you to remain broken. It chose you to outgrow anyone who needed you small to feel important. So rise, loudly, unapologetically. Let them sit in the silence where your pain once lived. Fifth, they didn't just lie about you. They used your absence as a weapon. They didn't miss you. They missed the control they had when you were still explaining yourself. Let's speak honestly. They tried to bury the truth beneath pleasant-sounding lies. You walked away to protect yourself, and they called it betrayal. You stepped back to breathe, and they labeled it abandonment. You chose peace, and they portrayed it as punishment. They never told anyone how they twisted your words until they broke inside you. They never mentioned how they drained your loyalty completely, then blamed you when there was nothing left to give. They never told anyone about the nights they made you question your own mind, or the times they twisted your truth into something dangerous just because you spoke it. Instead, they told people you changed. They said you vanished. They claimed you became cold, distant, someone unrecognizable. But let's be absolutely clear, your absence was never cruelty. It was survival. It was a final line drawn in blood after every gentle boundary had been ignored. You didn't disappear. You outgrew the chaos. And still, they turned your silence into a weapon. They built a version of you while you were gone. Quiet enough to seem harmless, yet toxic enough to influence others. They shared half-truths and sharpened them into full-blown attacks. They wrapped your distance in drama, left out the part where they caused your departure, and made sure the narrative revolved around them as a victim. That's not misunderstanding. That's manipulation. Now hear this clearly. Stop questioning your decision to leave. Stop wondering if you should have stayed longer. Tried harder. Explain more. You didn't owe anyone your destruction just to prove loyalty. You didn't walk away to hurt them. You walked away because they were destroying something sacred within you, and doing it while pretending everything was fine. They were never confused about why you left. They just refused to say it out loud. Because the truth makes them look guilty. Because it doesn't fit the role they want to play. Because it stains their hands when they want to appear clean. But here's what they overlooked. Silence becomes powerful when it's backed by strength. And now your absence is echoing. It lingers. It reveals. People are beginning to notice the inconsistencies in their stories, the tension in their tone when your name comes up. Because guilt, like smoke, slips through even the smallest cracks. And right now, everything they built is burning. So hold your silence like a blade. not out of weakness, but because your departure already said everything that needed to be said. You didn't abandon them. You finally chose yourself. 6. They couldn't handle you, so they tried to break you first. When small minds encounter powerful truth, they don't accept it. They attempt to destroy it. Let's get this straight. You didn't frighten them because you were unstable. You frightened them because you were undeniable. There's a difference. They weren't overwhelmed. They were exposed. You showed up with depth, clarity, and a presence that forced people to confront everything they'd been avoiding. You didn't shrink yourself. You didn't dilute your intensity to make fragile people comfortable. And that's what made you threatening to them, not because you were harmful, but because you reflected truth. And most people can't stand their reflection when it isn't flattering. They looked at you and saw everything they lacked: courage, awareness, authenticity, truth. And instead of rising, they tried to pull you down to their level. So they acted first. They chipped away at your confidence in subtle ways. They mocked your emotions. They dismissed your thoughts. They made you question your own voice, all while smiling. At the same time, they labeled you as too much, too intense, too emotional. But what they really meant was, you're too real. I can't pretend around that. So they tried to discredit you, not because you were wrong, but because you were right too soon. You saw through them before they were ready to be seen. You exposed the false layers they thought were hidden behind charm and social masks. That's why they turned against you. People don't destroy what threatens them physically. They destroy what threatens their illusion. You weren't their enemy. You were the force that shook their false foundation. Now listen carefully. Stop absorbing their fear. Stop treating their rejection like proof of your inadequacy. They didn't reject you because you lacked value. They rejected you because your presence demanded growth. And they weren't ready for that pressure. That's not your burden. The universe didn't choose you for comfort. It chose you to disrupt, to reflect, to transform. And those roles don't come with praise. They come with resistance. Because truth tellers aren't welcomed. They're targeted. But here's the reality. Everything they did to break you only revealed who they are and who you are. They tried to make you feel small because they felt small. They tried to dim your light because it exposed their darkness. They weren't protecting themselves. They were trying to silence the voice that reminded them of their own weakness. You were never too much. You were simply too real for people who survive by pretending. And now the truth is out. And they are consumed by guilt because the one story they couldn't silence was yours. 7th, you weren't just a part of their story. You were the test. And they failed loudly. Some people pray for blessings, but when the universe delivers one disguised as a challenge, they collapse and call it a curse. Let's stop pretending your presence was random. You weren't just a passing moment in their life. You weren't just another contact in their phone. You were the test, a truth sent to expose everything beneath their performance. And they failed, not quietly, not subtly, but completely, like a structure collapsing under its own weakness the moment real weight was applied. You didn't ask for perfection. You didn't demand the impossible. You asked for honesty, effort, consistency, the basics. But even that was too much for people pretending to be complete. Why? Because they weren't built for depth. You came with depth, emotional depth, awareness, vulnerability, accountability. And they showed up with surface-level energy and egos they couldn't even sustain. They panicked. They withdrew. They ran. Not because you were overwhelming, but because you revealed the truth. You exposed how shallow their love was, how fragile their loyalty was, how loud their words were, and how empty their actions remained. They failed the test of presence. They failed the test of honesty. They failed the test of commitment. When things became real, they didn't want to face you. They wanted to use you as a reflection, as support, as a place to unload their chaos while still appearing righteous. And the moment you began asking for something genuine in return, they hesitated, because that required effort where manipulation once existed. That required authenticity when they were built on illusion. So what did they do? They projected their shortcomings onto you. They labeled your standards as too high, your depth as excessive, your truth as overwhelming. But let's be honest, they were too limited, too fearful, too artificial. They couldn't rise to the moment, so they turned it into criticism. Here's your reminder, chosen one, because somewhere along the way, you forgot you were never too much. You were exactly the standard the universe sent to reveal truth, and they failed to meet it. So stop replaying the past, questioning whether you expected too much. Stop diluting who you are just to be acceptable to people who were never capable of handling authenticity. You were not a mistake. You were the turning point. And now they are haunted by the realization that when the universe gave them an opportunity to grow, they collapsed instead. The harsh truth is clear. They didn't just fail you, they failed themselves. And now they are suffocating under the guilt they tried to disguise as indifference. 8th, your story didn't end. They just tried to bury it and hoped no one would uncover it. They didn't destroy the truth. They just believed that if they hid it deeply enough, even you would forget where it was placed. They assumed it was finished. They thought that by covering your story with fake smiles, altered timelines, and empty performances, you would fade along with it. But what they didn't understand is this: truth doesn't disappear in silence, it evolves. While they manipulated narratives like puppeteers, weaving stories to gain sympathy, your truth remained alive beneath their lies, growing stronger in the dark, waiting. They mistook your silence for surrender. They believed that repetition and volume would erase the existence of another side, your side, the real one. But truth doesn't decay. It matures. It sharpens. And now it's seeping through the cracks, in their hesitation, in their over-explanations, in their defensiveness over things no one even questioned. Your truth carries weight, and weight always leaves an impact. They were never trying to move forward. They were trying to conceal their actions. They knew your version of events could unravel everything they built on performance and sympathy. So they buried it, not to eliminate it, but to control it, because nothing unsettles a liar more than a truth they can't control. They thought time would support them, but time aligns with truth. With every passing moment, their mask tightens. Every avoided mention of your name, every awkward pause, every false smile, it all adds up. People may not say it yet, but they sense it. And now hear this: why did you ever believe your silence was weakness? Why did you think that being quiet meant being unheard? You weren't silent because you were defeated. You were silent because you were becoming something undeniable when the right moment arrived. You didn't need noise, you needed timing. And the universe is never late. So stop grieving the years they control the narrative. They were only delaying what was inevitable, your rise. Because now people are paying attention. Now awareness is growing. Now the weight of what they tried to bury is collapsing back onto them. The guilt they wear like fragrance is starting to rot. And no amount of polished words, vague apologies, or curated images can hide it. Your story was never gone, it was buried alive. And now it's pushing its way back to the surface. You were the seed they tried to suffocate, but you weren't buried. You were planted. And now it's time to rise, loudly. 9th, they built their image on the destruction they caused, then acted like the survivor. They didn't endure the storm. You were the storm. And now truth is approaching. Let's be clear, they didn't just walk away. They benefited from your pain. They turned your downfall into their spotlight. They transformed the damage they caused into a story they could present, repeat, and share like they were the wounded hero overcoming some undefined hardship. But that hardship was you, and what remained wasn't debris. It was you, still alive within it. They told the world a narrative where you were chaos, the problem, the one beyond help. And they portrayed themselves as a brave, damaged person who tried everything and had to leave for their own peace. Call it what it is, image theft. They didn't simply move forward. They used your pain for their own gain, emotionally, socially, even spiritually. Your suffering became their redemption story. And what makes it harder, people believe them. Because it's easier to accept a clean, simple story with a hero and a villain than to confront a complicated truth where the one pretending to heal was actually the one causing harm. You see them now, don't you? Sharing rehearsed wisdom, speaking about healing and growth while skipping the part where they stepped on someone else to get there, talking about forgiveness while quietly ensuring you're still seen as a problem. But false narratives don't hold forever. The cracks are showing. Their wisdom feels rehearsed. Their peace looks staged. Their calm feels forced. And their guilt continues to surface in small, telling moments, because no lie can carry that weight indefinitely. And you? Let's talk about you. You've watched all this unfold, questioning yourself, wondering if you were too much, if you should have stayed silent, if maybe the blame was yours. Stop right there. They didn't build their reputation alone. They constructed it from your wreckage. They needed your collapse to frame their so-called rise. They needed your silence so their version would be the only one anyone heard. But here's what they failed to consider. You didn't stay buried. And now your truth is rising. Now the ruins are turning into a foundation. Now the narrative they built is trembling because it was never solid to begin with. Let them keep acting. Let them keep gathering sympathy from the ashes they created. The universe may be patient, but it never forgets. And now, this is your moment. Your truth is a force that shatters everything. And they are already falling apart under the weight of a lie they can't carry anymore. 10th, they don't fear how loud you are. They fear the power of your truth. The sharpest blades don't shout. They cut clean in silence. Let's be clear. They are not afraid of your volume. They are afraid of your clarity. Because clarity doesn't beg for attention, it demands it. Your voice was never meant for chaos. It was meant for truth. And truth doesn't need noise to leave an impact. It only takes one honest moment to break apart 1,000 carefully built lies. That's what they fear, not confrontation, not anger, not revenge. They fear the moment your voice finally tells the truth they tried to hide. Because when your truth lands, it strikes like force against glass, sudden, breaking, impossible to undo. And no matter how calmly you speak, it stays. It lingers. It echoes everywhere they go. You may have wondered why they react nervously when you speak, why they become defensive even when you aren't aggressive. It's not because you're hostile, it's because they know that every time you speak, the illusion weakens. They hear the truth they thought they buried. They feel the weight of it returning, and their mask begins to slip. Remember this, especially if you've been doubting yourself. They are not afraid of you raising your voice. They are afraid of you speaking without apologizing. They are afraid of your calm tone that still carries intensity. Afraid of your stillness that holds power. Afraid of words that don't hesitate, because guilt always does. So stop softening what you know is real just to seem fair. Stop silencing yourself for people who never hesitated to distort who you are. You weren't too harsh, you were direct. You weren't too intense, you were honest. And here's what they can't escape. You don't need revenge. You don't need to fight back the way they did. You only need to speak. Because your truth is no longer quiet. It's powerful, steady, undeniable. It shifts everything and leaves behind a silence that says more than noise ever could. Even now, when your name comes up, they feel it. Because the one thing they could never control was your voice returning. You were never the problem. You were the proof. And that's why they fear you. 11th, you were the mirror, and they tried to break you to avoid seeing themselves. People don't destroy what they don't fear. They destroy what reveals them. Let's make this clear. You didn't damage them. You reflected them. And that's what they couldn't handle. You weren't chaotic. You were precise. You weren't unstable. You disrupted their illusion. You didn't come in attacking. You came in revealing. And when they looked at you, they didn't see growth or honesty. They saw their own flaws. They saw avoidance, contradictions, and a version of themselves they didn't want to face. Instead of confronting that truth, they tried to destroy the reflection. They lashed out. They labeled you dramatic, difficult, overly emotional, not because it was accurate, but because it was easier than accountability. This wasn't accidental. It was deliberate. Because if they discredit you, they don't have the answer for their actions. It becomes distraction, misdirection, a rewritten narrative. And people believe it, because lies are polished, while truth shows up raw. But even broken glass still reflects light. And that's what continues to disturb them. You didn't stay shattered. You didn't disappear. You rose, maybe hurt, maybe mocked, but stronger, clearer, carrying pieces of truth that still make them uncomfortable. You were never the villain. You were the evidence. And they couldn't stand that. Because people don't want to be seen unless they control what's shown. You didn't need to accuse them. You only needed to exist. And that alone exposed everything. So they did what fearful people do. They attacked the reflection instead of facing it. Now listen carefully. Stop carrying their projection as if it defines you. Stop questioning whether you were too intense. You weren't too intense. You were too honest for people who rely on deception. Stop trying to reshape yourself into something that never challenged them. It was your edges, your truth, that made them uncomfortable. And those parts of you, they matter. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to soften yourself. You only need to stand as you are. Because the reality is this, you were never broken. They were shaken by what they saw in you, and even now, that reflection follows them wherever they go. 12. They tried to finish the story without you, but you were always a turning point. They attempted to close the chapter on their terms, neatly, cleanly, as if they were in control of how it ended. They wanted you to disappear like something insignificant, a side note, a forgotten part, something that could be skipped or erased in the retelling. But the story never truly moved forward without you, because you were the part that gave it meaning. But here's what they overlooked. You were never side note. You were the pivot. Every facet they spoke, every version they pushed, every moment they rewrote without including you, none of it truly mattered, because a real narrative never progressed without you being part of it. They weren't the lead. They were background figures pretending in the spotlight they borrowed from your presence. And when you stepped back, when you became quiet, they didn't mourn your absence. They replaced it with fabrication. They portrayed themselves as survivors, as the ones who had to leave, as the ones who endured everything. But the chaos didn't begin until they tried to remove you from the story, because the story was always centered around you. You were the change, the lesson, the ignition, the truth that caused everything false to fall apart. And here's what they never expected. Your silence didn't erase you. It amplified you, because time exposes what ego tries to hide. You were never lost. You were never the error. You were the one who gave everything meaning. Now people are beginning to question things. They are noticing inconsistencies. They are wondering why the narrative doesn't align, why your name is missing from every version that sounds too perfect. And here's where you need to hear this clearly. Stop acting like you miss your moment. Stop believing that because they moved forward, the story ended. You weren't late. You were waiting for the noise to fade. You were allowing the false version to collapse on its own. Because when truth finally arrives, it doesn't gently knock, it breaks through. And the truth is simple. You are the story. You always have been. They tried to end things prematurely, but now they are watching the real narrative unfold without them. They are not just dealing with guilt, they are fading into irrelevance. Because when the full story is finally seen, raw and complete, your name won't be erased. It will be central. You didn't vanish. You just stopped asking permission to tell your story. Now take control. The next chapter belongs to you. 13th, the truth isn't just approaching, it's consuming them. You never needed to fight. Truth is a blade, and guilt is what sharpens it. They thought they escaped it. They believed that if they smiled enough, appeared peaceful enough, moved quickly enough, no one would question anything. They assumed that if they stayed silent long enough, your version would fade away. But silence doesn't erase truth, it strengthens it. And now the truth isn't just surfacing, it's overtaking them. Every false smile, every over-explained memory, every inconsistency when they repeat the same story again and again, it's all falling apart. Because truth always returns, and it doesn't return quietly. You didn't have to expose them. You didn't have to fight, name them, or even raise your voice. All you had to do was survive. And that's what they never expected. They counted on your silence. They counted on your exhaustion. They counted on you staying broken long enough for their version to settle permanently. But instead, you rebuilt yourself quietly. And now your very existence unsettles them, not because you seek revenge, but because you're still here. Your presence alone disrupts everything. It makes their narrative unstable. It makes people question what really happened. And this is what affects them the most. You didn't ruin them. You simply refused to collapse. And every day you continue to exist beyond their version of you, it weakens them. Because guilt isn't just a feeling. It grows when it's ignored. It shows itself in their forced healing, in their discomfort when your name is mentioned, in their reactions when they face questions they weren't prepared for. You never needed revenge. You never needed to shout. You never needed to prove yourself to everyone. You only needed to let truth exist. And now it's undeniable. They didn't fall apart because you exposed them. They fell apart because truth doesn't need permission to reveal itself. It exists in everything, in their silence, in their contradictions, in the gap between what they say and what's real. And they know it's only a matter of time before everything collapses. You didn't break them, you endured them. And that's something they can never erase, never outtalk, never replace with another lie. You were the part of the story they tried to remove. But now truth itself is rewriting everything, and they are the ones being written out.